Hey guys, this is Bobby Rio, and I got a little video for you today. So hopefully by now you've already read my small talk tactics report. If you haven't, what are you waiting for? Trust me, it's only 27 pages long, but it's got some really game-changing advice in there. Now in this video, I want to talk about 7 of the most common mistakes you might be making, and I call them the 7 deadly conversation mistakes because these are the sort of things that will kill the momentum of a conversation. These are the things that will kill the attraction and basically will leave a girl thinking that you're just like every other boring guy she's ever talked to. So let's get something out of the way quickly. And the thing I like to say is you need to know how to talk. If you can't talk, you'll never get the hot girls. It won't matter if you're rich, good looking. I mean, I used to think years ago that, if only I was rich enough or if only I, worked out and went to the gym enough, it wouldn't matter that I couldn't talk. But here's the thing. Nothing matters if you can't talk. You don't get girls if you can't talk. You maybe a certain type, the gold digger type, but you're not going to get the kind of girl that you really want unless you know how to talk to her. And there's a certain type of talk that women respond to. And there's a certain type of talk that turns women off, that bores them, and scares them into the arms of the guys of the world who get it. And here's the thing. Either you get it or you don't. And when you get it, you get some. So right now, I want to talk about the 7 ways you're most likely killing your conversation. Like I said, the 7 most deadly conversations you make and what to do about it. Because I don't want to just give you the mistakes. I also want to give you some tips so that you don't continue making them and you kind of see the error of your ways and how to improve upon it. So, the first deadly mistake is not assuming rapport right from the beginning of a conversation. And for the longest time, I just couldn't understand why it took so long for me to develop rapport with women while my friends jumped right into it. And, I was always the kind of guy who, when I got really comfortable with somebody and I knew them for a long time, I was able to open up with them. But if I was just meeting someone for the first time, especially a beautiful woman, it was almost impossible for me to feel comfortable around them, to feel like I had rapport with them. And I'd watch some of my other guys that I was friends with, they just jumped right into it. And within minutes, they'd be talking to the girl like they've known him for years. And I thought, what does that guy have that I don't? And then one day it hit me. I was waiting for rapport to happen naturally, and they were assuming it. When you're talking to a woman, even if it's your first time talking to her, you gotta talk to her in that same laid-back way you talk to an old friend. See, most guys do the complete opposite. They talk to a woman in a stiff, formal way reserved for strangers. And this just makes it more apparent that you are a stranger and then you are just some random guy. And because of this, it puts her guard up and it creates that uncomfortable awkwardness that, we all know how devastating that can be to a conversation. On the other hand, by jumping right into rapport, you create a more natural feeling conversation, and you give her that feeling of having known you forever. And hint, chemistry has a lot to do with this feeling like, wow, I feel like I've known this guy forever. And that's what you want to kind of give her. And you do it by jumping in and talking to her as if you've known her forever. See, if you want that feeling of chemistry, you got to give her that feeling that she's known you. But guys in general, make the mistake and they actually blow rapport. And they do it in one of 2 ways. So the first mistake that kills rapport is going into salesman mode. And this is where you can almost feel yourself trying to sell her on you. Now, did you ever get stopped walking through the mall by someone who was trying to get you to take a survey or convert you to their religion? And didn't you immediately know that something was rotten in Denmark the minute they opened their mouth? They just gave off that salesy vibe, right? Like, the minute they said, excuse me, you just knew, like, shit, this person's going to try to sell me something. Get away from me. And that's what most guys do when they approach a woman, is they just have that, I'm going to sell you something sort of vibe to you. And that kills the rapport, and it makes the woman think, oh, God, what's this guy trying to do? Now, the second way that you kill rapport is going into hairdresser conversation. And I call it hairdresser conversation because for like 3 years, I went to the same old woman hairstylist, and our conversation was exactly the same every single time. We talked about, the weather, you know the type of conversation where it's just boring PG shit, the kind of stuff that you only talk about with your 60-year-old hairdresser. But what happens is a lot of guys, they have this kind of conversation in a bar with women, and that's not what you want to do. Instead, you want to assume rapport and talk to a woman the same way you talk to an old friend. So the second deadly mistake is being too agreeable. When I first started out going on dates with girls, I used to really be guilty of this, and I tried so damn hard to be agreeable. If a girl mentioned that she liked a certain band or a movie or a book, I'd start searching my mind, like frantically trying to say something positive about it. And if I mentioned that I liked something, let's say I was talking about a new restaurant in town, I was like, I really like that restaurant, and it turned out that she didn't like it, I'd immediately start backpedaling and, being like, yeah, I guess it's not that good. I guess maybe I just went there on a good day. Like, I was almost afraid to disagree with women. And, I'm even ashamed to say it. I've had conversations, especially back in college before I really got this, where I'd be talking to a girl and she'd start, like, bad-mouthing a friend of mine. And instead of, like, standing up for my friend, I'd almost take her side and be like, yeah, he is kind of a jerk, and, like, thinking that was winning her over. And, I would almost just, like, hardly ever tell her how I really felt, because I thought that might make her think that we're incompatible. And I couldn't have that. My goal was to get her to think we are so alike, this guy's perfect. But the sad part about it was it almost never worked. I mean, it really never worked. As much as we shared similar interests and we didn't argue and we had tons of stuff to talk about, I just couldn't generate 1 ounce of attraction. That's because I later learned that agreeability is not an attraction switch. In fact, a girl doesn't even have to like you to be attracted to you. Now, that's a whole other video, the idea of a girl not even having to like you to be attracted to you. But keep that in mind. A girl doesn't have to like you to be attracted to you. And it's actually kind of odd and counterintuitive, but the more you disagree with women and assert your own opinion into the conversation, the more attracted to you she becomes. And for a while, I couldn't figure out why this. Then it hit me. Every time you disagree with a woman, you're in a sense pushing her away. Now, obviously, if all you did was continually disagree with her, eventually you just push her so far away she wouldn't come back. But here's the thing. If we look at disagreeing as pushing her away, then we have to look at agreeing with a woman as pulling her towards you. So my old strategy of blindly agreeing with a woman was like continuing to pull a girl towards me until she finally felt suffocated and just ran for the hills. You see, the more uncertainty, the more intrigue, the more drama that a woman feels during an interaction, the more attraction she's likely to feel. This is why you've probably heard the term push and pull. You want to constantly leave her wondering. Sometimes you're pushing her towards you, but then you're pulling her away, pushing her forward, pulling her away. You're just kind of confusing her and sparking that intrigue. A beautiful woman, she's used to a man who would basically sell his soul to be liked to her. So when you come along and you're not afraid to express your opinion, you're not afraid to disagree with her, you're not afraid to call her out on her bullshit, and not only are you differentiating yourself from all the other guys, but what you're essentially saying to her is, I'm not afraid to lose you. And there's nothing more attractive to a woman than meeting a man that's not afraid to walk away from her. Human beings, women in especially, they want things a whole lot more when we don't know if we can have them. When a woman isn't sure if she can have you, it makes her want you more. And also, you want to keep in mind that it's much easier to begin flirting with a girl when you disagree with her. Because that disagreement provides you with the ammunition you need to tease her. So if she tells you that she likes a movie that you thought sucked, that could be something you can tease her and make fun of her on. Whereas if you just try to agree about it, if she tells you, that she hates guys that are cheaters, even if you hate cheating, to sit there and say, yeah, I hate cheaters too, I would never want to be with a girl who cheats, honesty is so important. Sometimes it's just more fun to sort of disagree with her, and even if you do it in a joking around way, it just makes for a more entertaining and enjoyable conversation for the both of you. So the other danger that you fall into when you're too agreeable is that you become so unsure of yourselves that when you're talking to a woman, that you begin to almost look for the woman to give you approval or permission before you take any lead in the conversation. And this is dead wrong. The minute a woman realizes that you're looking for her to lead the conversation, her attraction instantly disappears. Most guys, they let the woman lead the conversation because they're secretly scared of pissing her off, or they're scared that they're going to choose the wrong topic. But here's the thing. Women will follow whatever tone you set for the conversation. If you set a fun, flirty vibe, she'll follow. And even if she isn't interested in the topic that you chose to discuss, she's still going to respect you a lot more for taking the initiative than if you sit there and only talk about the sort of thing she brings up. Women want you to perform your role as a man. All right, the third deadly mistake is trying to seem too cool. Now, I know that at some point or another we all hear it, that little voice in our head that says, I don't deserve her. You know, we're standing next to this beautiful woman and we look around and we see dozens of other guys in a bar and we wonder, what can we offer her that they can't? And this puts our brain in overdrive, and we desperately start searching for things to say that make us seem cool. And, you know, we remember, maybe we read some dating advice and we remember, oh, we're supposed to be cocky and funny and confident, yet our brains just turn to complete mush trying to figure out exactly how to be all these things at once. So what happens? Well, if you're like I was, then either one of two things happens. Either you completely freeze, barely even able to compose an intelligent sentence, stalling out, your mind goes blank, or you get so nervous that you get diarrhea of the mouth and you start trying way too hard to be funny, and you wind up coming off as try-hard and insecure. It's, trying to be cool. It's a lot of pressure to put on yourself to always say something witty. But here's the thing, you don't have to always be cool. Most girls make up their mind about your level of coolness within about 2 minutes of talking to you. And so what does this mean? It means that if you can manage to show her in the first couple minutes of talking to her that you're on the same level as her socially, then you can just drop the whole cool guy act and just concentrate on carrying an enjoyable, fun conversation. Think about it for a minute. Think about how much easier a conversation would be if you didn't have to wear that sort of social mask of trying to be cool. How much more relaxed would you be just knowing that the woman already thinks you're cool? So instead of constantly worrying about what to say next to make you seem cool, you could just concentrate on staying in the moment and having fun with the small talk. I noticed this years ago when there was this guy there, Nick, who... he just, despite, we called him Handsome Nick because the guy was so ugly that, it was just sort of an ironic name that we gave him. But the guy did extremely well with women. And, I'd watch him, and at first I couldn't get it because he was kind of corny in a sense. Like, never really said anything really funny, and he was kind of like did a little goofy things. But what I realized is that's all women wanted, they didn't really need anything more than that. To them, Nick was this kind of fun guy that they felt comfortable around, and because he wasn't trying to be cool, they didn't feel like they had to try to be cool. They felt like they can just be themselves, and that's really a sexy feeling when you're with somebody and you feel like, wow, I can just be myself. That is an element of chemistry, and when you do that, when you just say, you know what, I'm not going to try to be cool, I'm just going to be honest and myself, it's a sexy feeling to a woman. Deadly mistake number 4, going into interview mode. Now, I know you've experienced it, talking to a woman, and you feel like you're on a job interview. I went on about 3 months worth of online dates, and every single one of them felt like a interrogation of a job interview, one after one after one after another, until I finally figured this out, that, I was in control of leading this. But this is the dreaded interview mode. This is what happens when you don't know what to talk about to keep the conversation going. So you start asking questions like, oh, so what do you do for a living? What do you do for fun? Where did you grow up? What kind of music do you like? Now, it's not the questions themselves that kill you. It's the rapid firing of question after question and the steady stream of fact-based answers that destroy any sort of chemistry. A conversation's supposed to have a fun vibe, kind of funly vibing back and forth. It's not supposed to feel like a job interview. I have a formula for what I consider creating chemistry. And the best I can describe it is to imagine that there's a giant spotlight shining over the conversation. And that chemistry takes place when the spotlight is shining brightly on the both of you. Now, when you're going back and forth with question and answer, you're putting the spotlight entirely on the person answering the question. So when you say, what do you do for fun? Now you're just shining that spotlight on her. And that's uncomfortable. You know, when somebody has a spotlight on them, I always say, have you ever spoken on camera? And you don't really realize how hard it is to speak on camera until, you know, somebody faces a camera at you and you kind of turn into a deer in headlights and don't know what to say. And that's kind of what happens every time you kind of ask a girl this question. You kind of put her into that deer in headlights mode of keeping her brain out of the moment, trying to think of her answer, trying to think of something cool to say. You want to get the conversation. You want to take that spotlight, and instead of the conversation going into question and answer mode, you want to keep it focused on the both of you for as long as possible. Now, in the small talk tactics report that I gave you, I provided a couple games you can use to do this. Instead of going into interview mode, things like role playing or using conversation. There's a lot of things, even using the characters. Your whole idea is that questions never lead to chemistry. They just don't. Statements do. You know, and an easy thing I recommend guys doing to kind of counteract this is change from asking questions to making statements. And a quick example before we move to the next deadly mistake is that if you want to ask a girl what she does for a living, instead of saying, "So, what do you do for a living?" you can say, "So, I bet you're a veterinarian." And, you know, that because that opens up to, like, now it's like it doesn't become what she's doing for a living. It becomes the interaction. Now she's like, well, why do you think I'm a veterinarian? And now you're kind of vibing back and forth instead of putting all the pressure on her. So let's talk about the next deadly. Okay, so the next deadly mistake is grabbing on to what I call conversation lifeboats. Now, if guys don't revert to interview mode to keep a conversation going, they usually make the next biggest mistake. And what happens is that in a desperate panic to find something to talk about, you grab onto a conversation lifeboat and you don't let go. I call them conversational lifeboats because they seem to appear whenever you're drowning in a conversation. So rather than let you sink, you reach for that low-hanging fruit, so to speak. And the next thing you know, the two of you spend the next hour talking about your pet dogs. In your mind, you think it's going good because at least it's not small talk, and, you know, you're both passionate about your dogs, and she seems passionate about her dog, and, well, you know what? Guess what? You're both a couple of passionate pet lovers who've just displayed to each other that the two of you have absolutely nothing else in common other than your animals. I used to do this all the time, whether the conversational lifeboat was a vacation spot that the two of us had visited, an author that we both liked, or as you read in the Small Talk Tactics report, it was health food and working out, where I started talking to health food with this girl, and I couldn't get away from that topic because I didn't know what else to say, and it just kept coming back to the topic of health food and working out. Well, these kind of conversations, they always end the same. We near the end of the conversation, and we realized that we shared a mutual interest. Yes, we both like health food, or we both like traveling, but we also displayed that outside of that mutual interest, we're not capable of enjoying each other's company talking about nothing. And you know what? Girls want to be with a guy that they can just have fun with, goofing around, talking about nothing. A guy that she can lay on the couch with and just laugh and have fun with. I mean, that is ultimately what a girl wants. She imagines Sunday morning laying there with you and not having to talk about this serious stuff because, you know, you have nothing else to talk about. A girl knows that there's a million guys out there who like the show True Blood, or who have dogs, or like John Grisham novels, or traveled Europe. But there's only very few guys that she can imagine herself just sitting around having fun with, whether the two of you are sitting at a pool in Bahamas or window shopping in the mall. And that's the guy she wants to be with. That's the guy she wants to date, the guy that she can imagine just having fun with anywhere. So deadly mistake number 6 is trying to be funny instead of fun. Now, this sort of goes back to the other deadly mistake of trying to be cool. And I think a lot of guys, they don't understand. See, what a lot of guys don't understand is women don't get most guy humor anyway. So, like, when we sit around and we try to come up with this perfectly witty remark that maybe if we were with a group of our guy friends, we'd get mad props for it. And they'd be giving us the, that was a good one sort of line. When you're with a girl, you're very rarely going to get that. Because most girls, unfortunately, they don't get guy humor. They don't appreciate it as much as we do. Yeah, they might laugh and they might think it's funny, but it doesn't mean as much to them. They don't judge a guy's coolness by his funny level. I mean, you probably, look at comedians. Comedians aren't sex symbols, you know? They're the funniest guys in the world. You can watch a guy like Louis C.K. and Bill Burr and a lot of these other guys, but they're not sex symbols, you know? And guys, you don't need to be funny, because just like trying to be cool, trying to be funny will make you think things too. When you think you need to have all this funny lines, it puts a lot of pressure on yourself. And when you can't be funny all the time, a lot of guys tend to just say nothing because they can't think of that perfect sort of line. But here's the thing. Women actually prefer fun over funny. Because here's the thing. Funny gets her laughing at the joke. Fun gets her laughing because she likes you. So if you say something really witty and sarcastic, she's going to laugh at what you said. But when you're doing something together that's fun, like playing, you know, maybe using a role play, or you're teasing her, that's fun. And when she's laughing is more of a, hey, I'm laughing because I'm having a good time and I like you. And the other thing is that fun is a lot easier to transition to sexual. So if you're making jokes and you're being real sarcastic, and I used to fall into this a lot because I can have a very sarcastic sense of humor, it's very hard to go from sarcastic to sexual. Whereas when you're being fun, which I consider like teasing and flirting and playfulness and even being a little goofy, it's a lot easier to then transition to sexual. And, you know, I want you to kind of keep that in mind when you go out, is don't worry about being funny, because being too funny actually can hinder your ability to get sex. Being fun brings you towards it. Do you want to know what the biggest mistake guys make in regards to their conversations with women? It's not getting help. Would you believe that just 10 years ago, it was nearly impossible to find this sort of information on improving your conversations with women? This meant that guys were forced to struggle forever or to figure it out on their own. However, you have no such excuse, as there's plenty of help available. Help that can change your game almost overnight. Now, even though it's been close to 5 years since I last struggled with this, I still know the pain you feel. I had felt it for more than 2/3 of my life, and I don't wish that pain on anyone. Now I know that anytime, anywhere, I can go out and talk to a woman and create attraction. I know that if I'm at a party and I see a girl I want to talk to, I can start talking to her, and she's actually going to enjoy talking to me. I know that, if I walk into a class that I'm taking, I can start talking to a girl sitting next to me, and the conversation is going to go smoothly. I know that when one of my friends' girlfriends introduces me to one of her friends, I'm not going to run out of things to say. I'm not going to get nervous. I'm going to be able to have a good conversation. I'm going to be able to attract her. And it's really a liberating feeling to know this, to know that, like, hey, I got this handled. And that's the thing, is that anybody in this day and age can get this handled, because the information's there, the material's there. And here's the secret to building your conversational skills. It's that preparation is key. The more you know and practice what you know, the better you get. You'll find that the same types of situations continue to occur. Like I said, you're going to be at a party and you're going to see a girl that you want to talk to. Well, you know what? You're going to be at millions or hundreds or thousands of parties throughout your life. And the same techniques that work are going to continue to work. You're going to walk into a class and you're going to see a girl, or you're going to walk into a new job and you're going to see a girl you want to talk to. Well, these same situations continue, and they repeat themselves throughout your entire life. And once you develop these skills to deal with these situations, and once you're able to handle them the first time, it just gets easier and easier and easier. So I know that a lot of you still have questions. I mean, I know that when I got started on my journey to fix this myself, there was a lot of stuff going through my mind. And I want to give you the ability to ask me the questions that disturb you the most, the questions that you just can't figure out, that you want the answer to. And I want you to, I want to give you a chance to get it off your chest and ask me, and I'm going to answer them. So what I want to say is, I'm about to work on a brand new video. And I want to answer your most pressing and your most frustrating questions about talking to women. So below, you're going to find a link, and there's going to be a short 3-question survey. I mean, it'll literally take you 3 minutes to fill this thing out. And if you fill it out, when I finish the video in a couple days, I'm going to send it to you. I'm going to go through and answer all the most common questions I get. Also, make sure you keep your eyes on your emails, because over the next week, I've got a lot of cool stuff up my sleeve. A lot of new cool stuff that I've been working on that I want to share with you. And this means a lot of cool free stuff for you. A lot of stuff that you're going to be able to use and kind of take and go out and practice and get these situations handled. You know, get this conversation aspect of your game down packed. So like I said, fill out the short 3-minute survey below. I'm going to put a video together answering all your most pressing questions, and then I'm going to send you the video. So take the survey and keep your eyes on your inbox for the video.